Okay, welcome everyone to tonight's presentation, Everything You Want to Know About Serials, Publishing, and Open Access. Tonight's meeting is co-hosted by ALASC and SLIS Connect. I am Elaine Hall. I'm the chair for ALASC and the Research and Writing Distribution Group Liaison for SLIS Connect, so I'm kind of wearing two hats tonight. I am very delighted to present our two presenters tonight. We have Katy DiVittorio. She graduated from SLIS just last May, so big congrats to Katy. And she's currently working at the Auraria Library in Denver, Colorado. She'll be briefly speaking on serials, what it's like to be new to serials, what students should prepare for if they're interested in getting into serials, curriculum, etc., stuff like that. She'll also be addressing some scholarship opportunities that are available through NASIG. We also have Bob Boissy. Bob currently works at Springer and is the president of NASIG. NASIG stands for the North American Serials Interest Group, and he'll be presenting on the current state of scholarly publishing, licensing, open access, and more. Tonight's format will include presentations from both presenters, which will be followed by an open Q&A. That will be your chance to ask both presenters questions of your choice and get them addressed directly. If you'd like to ask a question during the Q&A, please raise your hand and we'll call upon you. Or you can simply type the question in the chat and we'll try to pick it up. We thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and I would like to start off by turning over the mic to Katy DiVittorio. Katy, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming to this Q&A. My name is Katy DiVittorio, and I'm going to talk briefly from the perspective of a new graduate working with serials. So I graduated this May with my MIS from San Jose State. A couple months before graduation, I started working with serials at the Auraria Library in Denver, Colorado. The Auraria Library is a unique institution in that it serves 3 schools: the University of Colorado, Denver, Metropolitan State University of Denver, and the Community College of Denver. The library is also open to the general public. So I work in acquisitions, which is part of technical services. I'm managing the print serials collection. I also work with e-resources, but I'm dealing mostly with print. This position is a brand new position in my library. No one person was handling the print periodicals for about 4 years. It had been dispersed kind of here and there among various people. So I have been doing a lot of cleanup and creating workflows and procedures. And this was one of the reasons why I was drawn to NASIG. I was looking for resources to help me learn about serials. So some very basic information. What's a serial? So a serial is a continuing resource. It's a publication in any medium that is issued in successive parts and is intended to be continued indefinitely. So some examples: journals, reports, proceedings. They come in various formats, print, online. A lot are moving online. We get them through various sources, publishers, for example, West, Lexis, Gale. I'm dealing with vendors a lot in this position. A main vendor is EBSCO, but we also deal with Horazowitz or YBP. You can also get serials through donations or directly from the author. And we purchase a lot of individual titles, databases, but we also do a lot of packages. We do a lot of consortial packages. We belong to various consortia. So I really enjoy working with serials because things are always changing. I find myself doing a lot of problem solving. So if you enjoy challenges, puzzles, problem solving, serials may be for you. I found that when you're working with monographs, the process is a bit more straightforward. For the most part, once you acquire it, make it discoverable, you don't really look at it again unless someone is checking it out or you're withdrawing it. But with serials, we are working with their records all the time and dealing with issues like title changes, publisher changes, which may mean that we have to change where we're getting it from, or the cost may go up, and dealing with format changes. A lot of titles are moving online, and print may no longer be an option. As more materials are moving online, we're facing the challenge of handling their life cycle. We may have to track, we have to know how to track electronic purchases, how to handle the licenses, be able to set up and maintain access. There are a lot of additional factors you have to consider when dealing with e-resources that don't come into play with print. Example, perpetual access. Once you have an item in print, it's yours, but online items don't necessarily work that way. Many e-materials we're licensing instead of buying outright, so if we stop paying, we lose access. So if you're working in serials, you may be doing collection development, acquisitions, cataloging, dealing with budgets, methods of access, and preservation. I feel like you need really good communication skills and negotiation skills to work with the various vendors, publishers, coworkers, and consortia. I definitely deal with vendors and publishers quite a bit in my position. So what types of jobs are there in serials? So here are some examples. You can check out the NASIG job postings for more. So if you want to learn more about serials, they sound interesting to you, this is what I would recommend. 1, if you already work in the library, talk to the serials department and ask if you can help out. I have found that coworkers are often open to getting a little extra help while also teaching you something in the process. 2, if you don't work in a library, you can definitely still ask people in the field questions. You can join NASIG, get on listservs, read the various literature to find out more. There are a variety of associations where you can learn more about serials. There's NASIG. There's also ALA, the Association for Library Collections and Technical Services, and UKSJ, which used to stand for United Kingdom Serials Group, but I believe it's just UKSG right now. You can attend various conferences. I found that attending conference is a great introduction to the field to see what issues serials librarians deal with. Serials often get mentioned as a sidebar in library school, so conferences and workshops are a way you can learn more. The NASIG conference is especially important because it brings together hundreds of serials professionals. And I'm going to be attending for the first time this year, and I'm very excited about it. Okay. If you want to read about issues in serials, here are some journals to check out. At the bottom, NASIG has put together a list of publications that discuss serials, so if you follow that link, you can find more resources. Listservs have been very helpful to make connections and problem solve. Serialist, I personally have found very helpful. When I was first trying to figure out certain procedures, I would post my questions on the listserv and be able to get responses from people who have worked in serials for a long time. It definitely allowed me to make connections with people that deal with the same issues that I do. So as a new graduate, here's my advice. So normally I would suggest taking a class in serials, but there were no specific serials classes when I was attending SJSU. There are some classes that touch on serials just a little bit, advanced cataloging, collection management, preservation management, records management. I would recommend just taking classes that you're interested in and focus on serials in your assignments. I recommend joining NASIG and getting involved. The library community is very open to collaborating, so don't be afraid to ask questions. And definitely apply for the NASIG scholarship so you can attend a conference. If you can attend the NASIG conference or attend serials-related presentations at a conference, I would recommend it. It's a great way to network and learn more about hot topics in the field and the various different positions that are out there. So here are some resume builders that may help you find a job after you graduate. This is what I would recommend. Try to find a job at a library while you are in library school right now. If you can't, at least volunteer. intern, get supervisory experience. A lot of postings want you to have supervisory experience. Do extracurricular stuff like write articles and try to get published. You can use the assignment to join in class right now to try to create presentations or get published, write articles, and definitely join committees and student organizations. It's very rewarding. I love joining committees. It's one of my big things. I like being involved. So that's it, just very brief presentation. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. I'm big on collaboration and helping out. So now I think we are going to transition to Bob, who will be speaking from a much more experienced view of working with serials. Bob works for Springer and is the NASIG president. He will be speaking about e-resources, open access, uses, measures, and much more. So thank you for taking the time to speak with us tonight, Bob. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, that was fantastic, Katie. I think San Jose State University should be very proud to have somebody who has come so far in a short time. That's really, you summed up a lot of things that I think should be said. You know, serials is important because for most libraries in the academic sector, I won't speak about other sectors, but in the academic sector, we're talking about you know, 75% of the materials budget is in serials. Some libraries are slightly different, but serials have been largely, you know, kind of moving up the budget line. I'm going to talk a little bit, quite a bit about serials, but something about ebooks as well. So let's take a look, and I want to go quickly so I can get to your questions, which is really what I'm most interested in. So let's go ahead and get into it. You're going to get a little tour of Massachusetts tonight. I have pictures. So just be aware of that. I can't really do a PowerPoint presentation without pictures, so here we go. Here's the things that I'll talk about. Electronic journals, electronic books, open access, a little bit about usage measures, and marketing. My role right now in the company at Springer is kind of marketing, but it's more like field service. I work with libraries directly to make sure that they're able to implement and get the full benefit of our electronic resources. I've got to say at the outset that I have a little bit of a bias towards you know, academic libraries, because that's who I've worked with most of my life. But if you're into the public library sector, the corporate library sector, the hospital sector, I hope you'll still ask questions, and I'll do my best. I know Katie will as well. Yeah, that little path is meant to say that, you know, we're in the middle of a place getting from one place to another. I think that, you know, before long, most librarianship will be done online, and we're moving. Even as Katie has said, she's had to deal with print quite a bit. I think we're moving slowly but surely from print to an electronic environment. So we'll talk more about that as I move along here. Okay, so a little bit about e-journals. Yeah, I mean, electronic journals, the primary research, the experiments that are done day to day, the primary research article is still what is driving science. You know, books are the intelligence that has been procured, let's say, from many different experiments that are first expressed in a journal. So our research article is still really the coin of the realm, as I say. I think that the article has become very much mixed with the book chapter in the online world, so that a lot of the one search box kind of idea, like Google Scholar or some of your various commercial discovery services, they're returning both chapters and articles at the same time. So you're getting a kind of a jumble of things in a sense, and maybe that's okay, but It's something to be aware of, that the idea of print journal issues and volumes and bound volumes is becoming less important than the understanding how to manage individual articles in the library world. It's certainly the case that you heard probably in your library studies, or even early on, that big publishers like Springer, like Elsevier, like Wiley, Taylor and Francis, and others really would prefer to make a deal with the library to grant access to the entire journal portfolio that they have. This is something that they would never have done in the print world, kind of given you a lot of print subscriptions for less money just to give it all to you because there was so much logistics. But now in the online world, we would much rather have you have access to everything we publish. In our case, over 1,800 journals. Elsevier is a little higher, maybe 2,000 journals. So this is the kind of thing that publishers want to do. So we want to take, for example, last week I was in Pennsylvania, Bloomsburg University, 25 subscriptions. We want to take Bloomsburg from 25 subscriptions to 1,800 subscriptions in one fell swoop for almost no more than they're paying for the 24, because we can, and because it's something we can do in the online world that we couldn't do before. And so this is a kind of a longing that publishers have, that you have to understand that when we grant access online to our entire portfolio, it's to please our authors, to get them out in front, and to kind of put our journals out into the public eye. Many librarians in the academic sector appreciate this. They think it's the golden age of journals, but others are worried about it. And so I want to be honest about it. They're worried about the fact they're not selecting journals anymore. They're just getting everything instead of selecting the ones that they think are the best. They're worried that some of the journals won't get used, and they'll be paying this money for some, journals that won't get used. They're worried about budget. If we ask for 2 or 3% more every year, can they afford to pay 2 or 3% more every year for journals? And they're worried that the big publishers are going to take more and more of the library budget and squeeze out the smaller publishers. So I want to be very honest about these things. We hear these things regularly, and I want you to be aware of the objections, be aware of the pros and the cons when you may end up negotiating with a big publisher. So it's good to know all these contextual things. In the case of Springer and other publishers, we are the primary publisher. We're not an intermediary. We're not a database. We're the primary publisher. So from our point of view, we would like to grant ownership and perpetual access. We call it licensing. In fact, what we do is try to spell out the terms. When we sell you a year of a journal issues, we want you to own it forever. The question is, how can you own it forever online? And we try to make as many assurances as we can about that access. In Springer's case, we grant electronic interlibrary loans, so you can send the PDF to another library for another user. We don't put digital rights management on things, and we don't put any limits on concurrent users. Sometimes intermediaries do have to do that, and that's because some publishers demand that. In the case of e-journals, some librarians have stated that they think that the future is really in articles, and not really subscribing to journals anymore at all, but just giving a kind of an open universe access to journals, and letting users select individual articles and then paying for them when they select them. This idea of no more selection of things is a recurring theme that I think that all librarians have to think about. What does that mean? That you're not selecting the content for other people to use. You're actually, kind of opening up a universe of content and letting them choose. My friend Steve Black at College of St. Rose in Albany at the last NASIG meeting said that he felt this trend was inevitable. So you know, he's an awful good serials librarian and has been teaching at Albany for quite some time. So, you know, I take him quite seriously. And if he thinks that's the way things are going to be, well, okay, he may be right. You know, the question is when and, you know, how long it takes. I think things will take a lot longer than people predict. I work a lot in account development with the discovery layer. I'm very concerned and very interested in all the different access points, the depth of indexing that gets people to our content, because if people can find it, then they'll use it, and the usage is what drives people to keep buying it. And I want to point out at the bottom here that one of the things that I try to kind of navigate all the time in serials is this idea of Google Scholar plus library links. Okay, people see searching scholar.google.com and then putting in their library links for their particular university library, San Jose State University, and finding that link to the full text and then using it. So that Google Scholar starting environment versus a commercial discovery service like Primo or Summon or, you know, EBSCO Discovery Service, using that as a layer directly into what the library has purchased, versus a general database search. These are the kinds of things that I'm trying to figure out what gets people to, for example, my content in a reliable way. And publishers have to worry about this now, because with everything online, this is the kind of thing that we have to struggle with all the time. By the way, that bottom right picture is my favorite place to get cupcakes and different kinds of things. It's called Sweet in the middle of Boston. Let's move on to the next one. So we're talking about ebooks. Down at the bottom right, you'll see our Boston Common. That's the Make Way for Ducklings statuary there. So I'm saying make way for ebooks. Anyway, ebooks are the future of my particular company. We're the largest ebook publisher in the world. I'm not in sales. I'm in marketing, but I want to be clear about the scope of ebooks. You know, when one publisher is publishing 5,000 ebooks a year, you know that they've banked on ebooks, and we certainly have. Our CEO, Derek Honk, I say in my little bullet points here, has said that he was ready to cut out print books altogether. I mean, no more SciTech medical print books. They weren't making any money. And then he said, well, no, well, you know, if you can go to electronic books, we'll do it. And since 2005 and 6, we've banked on ebooks as our future. Again, the same objections though from libraries. We try to sell chunks of ebooks, large chunks, 12 different subject collections. People say, well, I want to select my book by book. You know, I don't really want to buy a package. I want to buy individual books. I'm worried that if I buy a package, some won't get used. I'm worried about, you know, you charging me more money and you squeezing out small publishers. So the same themes as with e-journals when it comes to ebooks in some sense. But we try to counteract that in some sense by licensing terms that will be very generous. You may have heard about EPUB. EPUB is the kind of format that you get when you work with you know, Amazon or Barnes & Noble, and you pull down the whole book at one time. It's a very, you know, useful and mobile format. It's more, you know, kind of agile, let's say, than PDF chapters, which we have now at Springer. But the problem with it is it's so mobile that we're worried about interlibrary loan of the format, because if we don't put any digital rights management, we're kind of letting somebody send the entire electronic book to another location that hasn't paid for it, and then that book just kind of goes out into the public, and so we're concerned about that. So we're trying to figure out how to kind of, you know, walk the line with that. Thank you for the person who said they love Boston. I love that. I love you too. I want to say that we're under a strong pressure, and I think all publishers who are kind of working in the scholarly sector feel the pressure to make our ebooks better and better and better, and take advantage of electronic power, the graphics and the interactive opportunities, and the different apps and things you can do with electronic. And we would try to do that. It's so funny, people say they love print books so much, but when it comes to electronic books, they say they want more and more and more. So we try to deliver it. It's not simple for a regular publisher to go from a print book publisher to an electronic book publisher that is whiz-bang, but we certainly try. I will say that I think the discovery layer for ebooks, and this goes all the way through to Google and every other discovery element, is not as good for ebooks as it is for e-journals. It's not as easy to find ebooks as it is e-journals, and that's important to know. We churn out our own MARC records, and they see the OCLC and Serial Solutions and everybody else who does MARC records, but there's not enough access points, in my view. We need to go beyond MARC records. I will say my bottom point on this is about ebooks is that my point of view is that I want to test everything, that the assumptions about ebooks. We did a study at Wellesley College. You've probably heard of Wellesley. It's undergrad, but a very good college. We studied their ebook preferences. They've been bombarding their students with ebooks for the last 8-9 years, and they got into it early. But they want to keep asking them, is it okay? Is it okay? And they said, what users said is mostly that they wanted ebooks because they could search them, put in keywords, and find things in them. You can certainly do that. That's an advantage over print books. And then they wanted to download them and use them offline. So any concept of ebooks where you had to be connected via Wi-Fi or something else was not what they wanted. They wanted to be able to use these ebooks wherever they were. So keeping them, downloading them, making a personal library is still a very, I think, a strong feeling among ebook users, and the way forward, I think. Let me go to the next one and keep moving here. Open access. Yeah, Springer is the largest open access publisher in the world. We hope that we're making inroads in this, and we hope that we're turning over the paradigm of publishing completely, so that science becomes completely open to the public, to the world. People say that commercial publishers are against this. We're not actually against this. We would prefer to stay in business, but we passionately believe that there's a model for open access where the kind of fees, the things that cost money in publishing can be borne in a different way, rather than through, let's say, a library budget and an under pressure library budget. My top physics editor in New York is a guy named Harry Blum, who says that open access is one of the top 3 factors shaping scholarly publishing. I think it's probably the #1 factor shaping scholarly publishing. So if you ever get the impression from reading in a newspaper or some other place that scholarly publishers are kind of shunning this or not interested, that's not true for Springer. That's certainly not true for us, and hopefully not true for the others. Our own company has predicted by the late 2020s, it's very possible that all our ISI ranked journals, which is most of our journals, will be open access. This will change librarianship. It'll change Serial's librarianship, but let's hope it changes it for the better. 12% of our content is open access right now, and Biomed Central is our primary open access publisher, but we have 100 open access journals ourselves on Springer, and we own Biomed Central, and we're very proud of it. So we have a lot of people who are kind of criticizing commercial publishing, and that's okay. That's healthy. The criticism right now is between something called green and gold, open access. These are the terms. And the question is whether basically publishers should be written out of the equation entirely, with authors just writing things and then self-archiving them for the public, or whether it's okay that publishers are still involved and charge a small fee for processing articles and peer review and other kinds of things. So those are the arguments that are being that are pushed along. I actually think that a certain amount of what's keeping traditional publishing going on a subscription basis is a lot to do with tradition, tenure, and prestige, and other kinds of things. And I don't criticize academia for this. I think it's very hard to change, but I think that we still have a way to go with open access. I don't really approve of some of the new experiments in peer review, kind of like an open peer review, or you promise to peer review so many articles and then somebody else will peer review your. It's a very scattered concept. So I'm not really fond of these models yet, but who knows? That picture on the bottom, by the way, is the Old North Church where the lamps were lit at the beginning of the Revolutionary War. Yeah, one if I land, two if I see, three if they're going open access. There's my saying. Usage measures. Yeah, okay, so we all know about usage. In the online world, you can count everything, and everything is exposed. Nothing is hidden, like in the print world of journals and books, where circulation stats were kind of misty and cloudy, and you didn't know how much quite was being used. Counter stats are very obvious. Somebody downloads a journal article, and it's counted, period. And people are paying very close attention to these stats. And thank you for the people who are being nice about Fenway. We're not having a good year this year in Boston. Sorry to say. So counter stats are being used by everybody. The most common thing that people count is cost per use, so they add up what Springer charged them for their journals for a particular year. They counted up the number of downloads from the journals for the year, and then just said, okay, what was the cost per use? Was it $2 per article? Was it $3 per article? What was it? I've heard people at Caltech said that $2 or less per article is an extremely good deal. And I think that's probably true. You buy things, you want them to be well used. Librarians' careers are made and broken by what they choose, and so it's important to count things, and we understand that. The other part is, are you using it? Are you using a lot of the portfolio that you purchased? If you purchase in a package, are you using a lot of it? So the percentage of the portfolio that's used is important. Springer is so nervous. Let me say, not nervous. That's not a good word. Springer is so kind of watchful about usage that we watch the trend lines for all our clients on a quarterly basis. We want to see the upward trend of usage, step up, step up, step up each year. We churn out more good science each year. It should be used more each year. So when there's a downward trend, we get nervous. And I step in, obviously trained as a librarian myself, and I look at library websites. I lurk on library websites. I do searches on them. And I see how accessible Springer content is. I grade libraries on how well they've set up the discovery environment. And then very, very politely, I have conversations with them about that. And not all libraries like to hear from publishers about how they can improve their website, but I do it anyway. And we try to compare apples to apples. So we use people in the same Carnegie classes and FTE account to kind of gauge whether somebody's usage good or bad. If it's going down, but it's generally very good in their class, then we don't worry so much. If it's going down and they're not very good in their class, we do worry more, and we try to do more to help them. Sometimes through promotions, sometimes through recommendations and other things. Yeah. I think that, you know, we have to be careful about, you know, how we talk about quality in terms of and usage. Some libraries are a little nervous about turning over definitions of quality to the users. You know, more users downloaded, you know, this journal, so therefore this is a better journal. And libraries can say, from some other point of view, actually, no, that's not a very good journal. It's just that it, you know, a lot of users liked it because it met some, you know, lower purpose. So this is a tension, really, between libraries' view of quality selection and users' view of selection that we all should be aware of. I mean, patron-driven access, or PDA, is being accepted by some, and that the idea, you've probably heard of it, that PDA is the wave of the future. Jason Price at Claremont is a big advocate of patron-driven access. Rick Anderson at University of Utah, very big patron-driven access. At least you know that you're using. Oh, good. You have some PDA programs in place. Everybody should experiment with all the different programs to see how it works. In Boston, I met with some libraries recently. I met with Boston University, Boston College, Northeastern University, Harvard University, and MIT University, and we met together and we talked about, you know, discovery environments with a particular library system. They started talking about the post-PDA environment, where in fact they would open up a kind of a vast universe of content to their users and basically build systems to get them that content after the fact, rather than worrying about cataloging it before the fact. They would rely on a very deep indexing layer, a kind of a very good Google Scholar that they would build themselves to get to quality content, and then they would just let people have the content. How they would budget it is another question, but the idea is just find it for them by whatever means necessary after the fact. So this is a really different idea about librarianship, and so I opened up the whole outfield of Fenway Park to you to say that post-PDA environment looks really, really wide open. I don't know where we're going, but if that'll work, but some of us think so. I hope you like the reference to World War II England in our new logo. We've kind of adopted this at Springer. Keep calm and ask a librarian. We're trying to let people know. We have T-shirts like this. Maybe I should send it to you to SJSU to try to encourage people to use their library and not get freaked out by information overload, but to keep calm and ask a librarian. My main theme on this page is just to talk about marketing. I'm a librarian. I've worked in various sectors. I've worked in some libraries, but worked in the commercial sector for a while now in my life. And I think that libraries have to more obviously embrace marketing than they have in the past. Not in a crass way, not in a commercial way, but in an intelligent way that fits with the marketing, fits with the library image and the class of libraries. In the old school, we used to talk about, reference was the place for people who wanted to talk to other people, and tech services were the people who didn't want to talk to other people went. And then in the kind of the new school, what I'm trying to say is that libraries have enough kind of on the line right now that everyone better start proving that the library is important and take it as part of their responsibility. In the old school, it was enough to count up how many print things and how many bound things and how many hundreds of thousands of things that you have in the library, and then kind of boast about it. But in the new school, you're turning on electronic resources. I think at Wellesley and the people I've been working with there, they said they had access to 400,000 ebooks. I think they were counting the free stuff. But whatever, you turn on as many e-resources as possible, and then you curate your discovery layer. And I like to quote two rather famous consultants, Rick Lugg and Ruth Fisher, live in New Hampshire. That they're awfully good at doing library work. They're YBP people in the past. But they've said, in their view of the next 5 years is collection development will continue to evolve toward curation of a discovery environment. So you're actually not really so much selecting things as you are making a very good discovery layer. And I hope you'll talk about that amongst yourselves at some point. Yell at me about it, ask me about it. But marketing has a lot of resistance. Maybe you're thinking, I didn't get into librarianship to be a marketer. I don't want to be a rah-rah person. This past year we had, NASIG came up with a core competencies task group that said, if you want to be a great serials librarian, this is what you have to be able to do. I asked the people that did that study, I asked them, does any of this involve, kind of promoting what the library has or does out to the user community? And they said, no, we don't do that. We're not marketing people. And I thought, well, you can think that, but you better start being you better start thinking a little bit differently. I personally think that outreach, embedded librarianship, that is going out into the research teams and projects, out in the campus, out in the community, are important, and that librarians who are also involved in teaching with the teachers on the campus and others, even in the high schools, even in community colleges. I think team teaching, information literacy is important. And I do think that new library jobs, including serials jobs, will have some marketing components. But I want to stress that I hope we do it our own way. And I can see that the time is passing, so let me just move right along. The last thing, this is my little doggie. This is Maddie, and she knows her role. Look at my stern finger pointing her. Stay seated, Maddie. Yeah, so this is the end of the talk, really. I just want to say that, I think that the predictions about what will disappear should be less aimed at people and institutions than maybe at media. I think media does pass away. 8-track tapes, cassette tapes, CDs, they pass away. Printed scholarly journals are media. They're going to pass away. But the role of helping people find information is not going to pass away. And I think that all of us who can add value in that chain are going to be still valued. So I predicted that printed scholarly journals may be getting nearer the edge. I predicted that maybe typesetters will go away, but printers will not, because print-on-demand technology is important. Somebody decides they really want to read something in print, you need to have that option. So, that's the kind of thing that Springer and every other publisher has to have. Sell the electronic, but make sure there's a print-on-demand option. And we've done very well that way. We generally don't print books anymore at all until an order is placed. And then we'll print 2 or 3 of them on demand as the orders come in, but we won't print them in advance, and we won't put them in warehouses because warehousing costs money. I've been involved in sales and marketing for a while, and publishers got involved in this when we got beyond the print world and into electronic, and they wanted to sell electronic. That could go away. We could stop being salespeople when we get to the open access point of view, which wouldn't bother me at all. I think change is okay. I don't need to be a sales or marketing person. I could be something else. So things can evolve. I used to work for a subscription agent for 15 years. I don't know if you know what those are, but the people who you can place all your subscription orders with for journals. a lot of those agents now are doing other things. They're running content platforms, database services. EBSCO is a very good example. Katie mentioned EBSCO. But they're doing other things. They're evolving, and that's the way it's going to be. I think library systems to track inventory and physical locations are really changing massively now. And so we need to kind of be aware that we're not just running an inventory physical location system. We're running an access management systems, and we're running systems that help people find their way to electronic technology. I am worried about the two different kinds of libraries I see now. One that's teaching silos, I think of it as you have 100 different databases, and you try to get your undergrads who are interested in engineering looking at InSpec, and you try to get your undergrads who are interested in humanities looking at JSTOR. I'm not sure that that's the right way to teach anymore. I don't know if that works, teaching a lot of different databases. What I think does work is giving people a very high quality single search box that gets them to all that content all at once, whether it's pre-indexed or whether it's federated search or something else. The single search box is now so powerful that I think we have to think about the Google model in the library world as something to pursue. The new Springer Link that's coming out this fall is a kind of a one box, search it first, then narrow it down later, and I think that's the way. I'm sure you have a very lovely library website that you prefer, and you might, your favorite library website. My favorite one right now is Northeastern University. So if you want to take a look at Northeastern University and see their giant search box and what they do, I would recommend it. I think it's a particularly good one. So that's it. That's me. Katie already mentioned the scholarships and the student grants. We do about, it's not just one student grant from NASIG. It's about usually 7 or 8 different ones that can get you to Buffalo next June. We're going to have a gangbuster meeting. We'd love to see some folks from San Jose be out there and win some awards. I'd love to see you on the stage, up there. And I want to stress that NASIG is a place where a new librarian, a new student, can definitely make a presentation and get yourself known by the library community and the vendor community and the publisher community, and make a presentation. Your presentation will go into the Serials Librarian Journal. It'll be written up, so your presentation will then be also a publication. There's no better way to advance your career than doing that. So that's all I have to say, and I'm going to turn it back over to our hosts and see if we have some questions.
Wow, there's a lot of information in both your presentations. Thank you so much. I do want to open it up to questions, and I just need to scroll down here. I think somebody popped up their hand. Go ahead and take the mic.
I hit the wrong button. I was trying to hit the hand clapping icon, and I hit the hand raising the hand icon. Sorry.
Okay,
perfectly
no
okay.
Does anybody have questions for either Katie or for Bob tonight? There's a lot of content that they covered. So. Go ahead, Megan. Go ahead, Lisette.
Go ahead and take the mic. So I was wondering, with the open access that you were talking about, the model that you use, is that where the authors pay the publisher to publish their work? Is that the model that you were talking about?
Okay, I can talk a little bit to that. What we try to do, and we try to use the Biomed Central model, they have about 250 journals. And Springer owns them, and Springer has about 100 Springer Open journals. And what we try to do is get a balanced funding for the article processing fees. The article processing fees range from $800 to as much as $3,000. Some authors are used to this because they've paid, page charges and other things in their careers. So they know that in some journals it costs money to get their, to get published. But they also know that they first have to, the paper has to be accepted. It has to pass peer review. Publishers like Springer reject far more articles than they, accept. So you have to be accepted and pass peer review first, and there's no economics that goes on before you're accepted. Once you're accepted, then you have options. And if you want to publish open access so that your article is made free and open to the public forever online, then you need to find out article processing fee. We approach universities and we ask them to at least partially subsidize these fees. So we'll talk to provosts and deans, and we'll say, if you can contribute, X amount of dollars, then the article processing fees for open access for your authors will be, cut in half. So we do try to get dollars from both the universities and the usually the grant funding that comes to the researchers who are needing to publish, and we're that's so yes, it does come from the author side, but we try not to just tag the author. We try to also talk to the universities to get some money pitched in from them. So it's kind of like we're shifting from the library budget to, say, the university budget itself to kind of partially pay for open access. I hope that answers the question. Okay, and folks have been asking about more for pay-per-view for serials. Most publisher sites, if you are not a subscriber to a journal, you can still read on most publisher sites. You can still read the abstract. You can still read about the article. When you go to download the PDF, if it doesn't recognize your IP range as being in a subscriber range, or if you're not an authorized user, it will ask you. It will prompt you. It'll say, do you want to pay for this article? And frankly, articles are not cheap. The economics of pay-per-view is difficult. Publishers rely on a very, kind of subscription money is reliable. Pay-per-view money is not. You never know what you're going to get from pay-per-view money. So we'd rather get subscription money because it's reliable, at least at this point. And with open access, we'd rather get article processing fees. And so the pay-per-view environment is a little odd, but and it's hard to know if a library wants to do a deposit account, for example. This is popular, or token account. They pay a certain amount to get a certain amount of articles allowed they can download in a year. So if they have budget, $20,000, then they get $20,000 worth of articles in a year. The problem is what happens if they go over their budget. And that is a problem. It's hard to budget pay-per-view because it's hard to know what people will want. So pay-per-view is one of those things where you have to do a careful analysis. You want to look at how many, for example, if you have a regular subscription, you want to count up how many downloads did we get last year. Would it have been cheaper for us to pay for those articles on a pay-per-view basis? Let's say it could be as much as, say, $35, $34 an article. If you add up the number of articles you downloaded versus the amount you paid for the journal package, you can do a calculation and go with a pay-per-view model if you want to. So, okay, what else have we seen? Licensing versus ownership. Yep. Okay. So I'm getting some questions. The question is about how is academic publishing industry addressing the issues of licensing versus ownership as regards to a back catalog of journal issues. Okay. Well, Springer does have an example. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to. I can speak for Springer. I think other publishers have similar arrangements. And we have an online journal archive. It takes people, if you purchase it, it goes backwards from 1997, which is our starting year benchmark when we first began digitizing. It goes backwards from 1997 to Volume 1, Issue 1 of every journal we have. And we publish in 12 different subject areas, so you can buy, a subject part of the archive, or you can buy the whole thing. When we sell that archive, we are selling ownership. We are saying, you don't have to pay more. It's a one-time purchase. My concern as a librarian is that, how long is that good? How long is that online access good? Well, if you pay for it, it's good for as long as Springer is a company. Until if we go under as a company, then you question, is it good anymore? Will you still have access? Well, if you didn't make a copy of it, then you might be worried. We certainly participate in archiving programs through Portico, which is an Ithaca company, with Locks and Clocks, which are Locks you may know about, and Clocks is an initiative at Stanford University where you can make copies of the content that you purchased. We also put content in national library databases as a backup. So what we're trying to say is, as much as we can, we want to grant you perpetual access to the content. But we need libraries to be responsible also to understanding, how they are making their insurance policies for the perpetual access. So we don't take access away. We're trying to give ownership. The question in the online world is how to grant it. And I'm glad that I see that people participate in Portico. Certainly our journals and our books are both there. The only issues we have are with journals that are society journals that we generally get for contracts for approximately 7 years at a time. Sometimes they want to participate, sometimes not. We always encourage them to participate. So I guess I'm trying to say we really want to give the libraries complete ownership, but libraries have to think themselves technically, how do we possess the content and work out a concept for that. We're very happy that libraries would have the electronic content. We certainly allow in our licensing to have them make backup copies and use Portico and use other services. So we're doing everything we can to give you ownership, I guess is what I'm saying. I hope that answers the question. Anything else people want to ask, or are you all tired out with this kind of stuff?
How does, I felt like about midway through you made some points about one of the complaints was the selection process. There's just too many items to look at, and it makes it more difficult to be selective. And you were saying that this is kind of an old traditional view held by the library profession, whereas the future leads towards users being the ones to decide which are the most popular items. Is there any kind of a middle ground? Is there any kind of an award system looming that will help kind of indicate the qualities of publications?
Okay, really good question. Really good question about how things might proceed in the future. This is pretty hard for me to predict. It's kind of like publishers are trying to sell content in bundles. Libraries are constantly telling us, you know, we see that the bundles are very good, you know, kind of cost per unit, you know, packages that you're offering us. But we're so, you know, kind of interested in purchasing one book at a time or one journal at a time and evaluating each that we're not really comfortable with the bundles. We see that they're very good deals, but we're not really comfortable with them. So what they're experimenting with is the intermediaries who have ebooks, and let them, you know, put a full catalog of, say, 45,000 ebooks in the case of eBrary, I think, an academic search premier, you know, kind of package. You know, you put catalog records for 45,000 ebooks or more in your catalog. You haven't purchased any of them, but you put them in your catalog, and then the users, you know, find them, pick them, start reading them. If they read them enough, and you know, whatever the criteria is, you know, 3 or 4 users reading them for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. There's all kinds of different models about how much use, you know, constitutes a, you know, complete use. Then we'll buy them. We'll buy it. Once we use it, we'll say, well, they liked it, they used it, so we'll buy it. The future, you know, as I was kind of suggesting, might be something that's beyond all 3 of those models. It might be a kind of this post-PDA environment, which is libraries just say, we're not even going to do catalogs anymore. We're just going to have this fantastic discovery layer, which is going to be, you know, Google Scholar on steroids, and we're just going to let people search it. And when they find something, they're going to click on it, and we're going to find a way to get it to them. Whether it's because it's a free resource, or because we already bought it, or because we're willing to pay for it on the run, or because we're willing to ILL it real fast and then figure out the consequences later. We're just going to try to get it for them. And we're going to get it for them as fast as we can. And that is the kind of, you know, let them have it first and, you know, figure out how to pay for it later or figure out how to deal with it later. It's a very different idea of libraries. Libraries as, you know, kind of the procurers after the fact, not before the fact. This turns over librarianship kind of on its head. In the past, librarians selected before the fact, and then the users used whatever the library selected. This post-PDA environment is like, no, we're just going to open up everything, and then we're going to try to get it for them after. It's really different. Somebody talk other than me.
It's 6:05 Pacific time. I know that means 9:05 East Coast time. Are there any last-minute questions before we wrap up and thank our guests for the evening?
Well, I just want to say to everyone that this is really, you know, a privilege to be able to talk to another library school. I was, you know, I did my library work at State University of New York at Albany and Syracuse, and it's great to talk to a library school out in California. I bet you have very different perspectives, and you know, I hope you take a look at my email address there, robert.boissy@springer.com. If you have compelling things that you want to, you know, share with me and talk with me, I'm just a regular person. Send them along to me. As NASIG president, I'm very interested in people who, you know, have ideas not just about serials, but about electronic resources. So you should feel comfortable, sending a message along. If you're interested in whether, publishers are hiring librarians, which, who knows, maybe you're interested in that. We're hiring more and more librarians at Springer, and because we value the experience and the relationship to the library world. So just keep that in mind. It's an alternative to working in a library. It's very different, but also very challenging. So don't count us out. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I was working on a project with Adolfo Charango at the University of California, San Diego serials. He does all the cataloging for serials there, and I think they do it for the entire UC system. And this is fascinating. I'm going to bring this back to him, and in fact, I'll email him the recording because it's something that's fascinating to me. I just wanted to thank you, and thank you for the shots of Boston.
Okay, then. Take care, everybody.